Shootout! Sorry, did that scare you? I didn't mean to. Sorry. Today we're going to have a look at 4 pens, a shootout between 4 pens. They're all Visconti opera models of some kind. I've done shootouts before. There's one called Night at the Opera. I know all that, but I have a specific purpose here. I've taken 4 operas. One is a loner, and that's why I wanted to do this. I have 4 here. I have an Opera Elements, smaller size. I have a Visconti Kakadu, which is a little bit bigger, but not yet fully master sized. And then I have 2 Opera Masters. The Kakadu was limited to the Australian market, but can be found on eBay occasionally, because people will ask me. And 2 Masters. There's the original Tobacco, also known as Tortoise. This was one of the 888 original ones. There was this, there was a blue one, and there was a clear one with blue swirls. That was the original Opera Master model, as far as I know. And this is the new one, the Blue Swirl. Now, the reason I want to discuss these is not really to go and compare them side by side pen-wise, because they're all different pens. What I want to show you is 4 types of Visconti nibs, namely Chromium18, 14 karat gold, 18 karat gold, and Palladium. Unfortunately, I don't have an 18 karat medium nib anymore, but I have Chromium18, Palladium, and 14 karat gold medium nibs. The 18 karat, sorry, I only have a broad. Bear with me, at least I can show you the differences in those 4 nib materials. Visconti also makes steel nibs. I don't have a steel nib. In my experience, the Visconti steel nibs are very, very rigid. They're very hard nibs. So are the SmarTouch Chromium nibs. Okay, so if you want to see a comparison of some of these pens, why don't you check out that Night at the Opera fountain pen shootout. There's an index on my website. But I think I compare the pens more there. What I want to do here is show you a couple of these nibs, alright? Because that's the most important part. Opera Elements. This is the original Opera Elements that had the original 14 karat 2-tone gold nib, and I find this an extremely pretty nib. It's also a wonderful nib because it's very springy. It really has above average springiness to it. So people regularly ask me, if I get this, should I get Palladium or gold? If you have the choice, I would always say gold. Alright, through eBay or other auction sites or pen sites, whatever. Then we have it doesn't really matter, but that was the 14 karat gold. Then we have 18 karat gold. I have that in this Kakadu. This is a broad nib. What's interesting, this, people are probably going to think I'm fairly stupid. I always wonder if it has something to do with the gold content. But if you hold these 2 side by side, you kind of see that the 18 karat gold is yellower. And I think that's because of the gold content. It's the higher gold content. Could be completely wrong, could be utterly off. Sorry if I exclaim nonsense yet again. But that's the 18 karat gold nib. These are not as springy. They have some spring to them, but I have found that 14 karat to be springier. Now we have a Palladium nib. I put that on my Opera Master. It didn't come with this nib. These pens come with a 2-tone Palladium nib, but I just happen to have a very nice single-tone Palladium medium nib lying around. These are very nice. This in particular, this one is very nice. It's still quite springy, and this is an older Palladium nib. Recently, unfortunately, there have been some quality control issues with the Palladium nibs. I think I also get a lot of complaints from people saying, well, mine skips, hard starts, etc. Yeah, that has been my experience too. This one is, as I remember it, I haven't used it in a while, but is pretty perfect. So writes very, very well. Now finally we have the SmarTouch Chromium18, basically a steel nib, but they call it Chromium18, and this is tubular, so it is wrapped around the feed, which is interesting in itself. These are also pretty rigid, and you also have the Flex Touch, which I've only seen on the Pininfarina model, which is a bit springier. So similar nib, looks the same, but more springier. I'm guessing has something to do with the alloy that was used. Okay, that's it. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to compare these pens side by side. What I want to do is give you an overview of how they write. So that's what we're going to do next. Let's just... I'm going to ink them up with the same ink. Boring ink, but ink that can be compared easily. And let's have a look. I hope that's useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye-bye. Alright. Let's have a look at some pens. Starting with the 14 karat gold medium nib. So here we have 14k gold, nice and wet. Every time I use this after a while, I'm surprised at how wet this nib is. The ink is Pelican Royal Blue for all 4 pens, so you can compare them. Okay, now as I said, springiness, line variation, because I mean, yeah, wetness definitely there, very wet writer. Paper is rhodia, huh? You can see that, good. You can see there is definitely some room for line variation. Not all 14K nibs are like this. I've also seen some of the stiffer ones, but this one is particularly nice and something I really, really like. So very, very pleasant and nice and soft. That's one of the reasons I really like this pen so much, not to mention, of course, the stunning material. Okay, let's move on to its gold brother, the slightly larger Kakadu. This is the 18 karat broad nib. Again, I'm sorry it's broad and not medium, but guys, it's what I have. I'm just trying to show this off. 18 karat gold, also wet. The wetness of these pens is no joke. Line variation, definitely some to be had here too. Very nice, soft nibs, and very, very smooth. Okay, then the Palladium nib, which is one of those nibs that you get on a lot of Viscontis in the slightly more expensive range. And maybe it's good to point out at this moment that the 14 karat and the 18 karat gold nibs are very hard to get. You occasionally see the 14K nibs, the 18 karat gold nibs are harder. You can find them online, but typically when you buy a new Visconti in the shop, you will not get it with the gold nib anymore, because Visconti moved on to the Palladium nibs. So that is actually 23 karat Palladium. I tried to leave a little bit of space here for the Chromium, so I'm going to write pretty finely here, small. This too, wet nib. As I said, wetness is a theme in Visconti's nibs. I don't know if I've actually ever said that, but if not, I have so now. To me, this feels marginally less smooth than the gold nibs, and that may just be the polishing, because as far as I know, this does not have Palladium tipping, nor do the gold nibs have gold tipping. It's probably all the same material, but to me, it feels a little bit less smooth. It still has a lot of springiness, and you have to be a little careful because you can spring these nibs. Same thing with the gold nibs. They're not advertised as being flex nibs, but I find that especially the older ones are quite springy. How do you know if it's an old one? I don't know. If you buy it on an older pen. Some of the more modern ones I've seen are definitely more rigid, and even some of the old ones are rigid. That's one of the issues. There seems to be a little bit of an issue with consistency. I have used Palladium nibs that are nails, and then I've used Palladium nibs that are like this, and that are very, very, sorry about the poor handwriting there, but very, very responsive, and that really allow you to do very cool stuff. So there is a reason a lot of people like these nibs. If you get a good one, emphasis on if, then they are really, really nice. Okay, finally, the Chromium18. I don't really know how to abbreviate that, so I'm just going to put down Chromium18. First thing you notice is a lot less saturation, a lot drier as a nib. Smoothness is okay, but because it's quite rigid, as you write you don't kind of get that yield, and that makes it feel, I don't know, you feel like you have a little bit more resistance as you write. Not bad, but not as glassy smooth as some of the other nibs have been. Wetness with this one too, even though it's the driest one of the bunch, it's still on the wet side of things, if that makes sense. Line variation, this is where you really start to see the difference. There's barely any. And this is a loner pen, so I also don't want to push it too hard, but I'm really applying some pressure here, and there just isn't that much line variation. So, there you have it. 4 types of Visconti nibs. Sorry there was no steel one, but the steel ones, to be honest, write very much like this in my experience. So, that's all there's to it. Guys, I hope this was useful. A kind thank you to Joost Appelboom for lending me this blue swirl. The other ones are all my property, so no acknowledgements there. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye bye.